You can call Bob Pollock and ask him your questions about lawns, gardens, trees, and all that stuff, leaves, whatever it happens to be. And the number is 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. Go ahead, give us a call if you have a question for Bob this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Noticed the other day that stink bug population is nice and healthy.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, well, that's one word for it, but there are others.
They're starting to collect and crawl around the house and
they're trying to
on
get
the
in.
house.
Trying to get in now.
Trying to get in.
It's amazing
Find a place
because
to spend the winter.
We've got the weather the way that it is. It's nice and everything, but somehow they know that it's time to go indoors and seek shelter for the winter.
Days are shorter.
Uh-huh.
Definitely can notice that, can't you?
How do they know that? It's amazing. Another thing we note about this time of the year, the bird migrations start. Hummingbirds are all gone now. They're completely out of Pennsylvania. They're headed down south, down Mexico way, as they say. There was the report this week about bird population overall. Did you see that report?
Yeah, I think I heard you talk about that.
We're down like half a billion or something like that, birds, and they talked about the various causes for it, and certainly some of those are man-made causes, but cats are the third leading cause of the bird population going down.
So are they tracking the cat population to know whether it's going up exponentially to...
bands of roving cats to find out if there's a real bird problem going on.
They are good bird catchers when the opportunity arises.
Yeah. So this time of the year, we're going to have another warm week next week. And so people have an opportunity to get outside and get with the preparations for the coming colder weather.
But did you see the week after that?
Plummeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
60s for highs.
Yeah.
Low 40s.
Yeah, and probably frosty time. It's going to get frosty.
Yeah. Yeah, when we start to hit 40, as we get out away from town and everything, it gets in our valleys and low spots, it gets colder than that. Okay. So, thinking about that, if you have tropical plants, or really indoor plants that have been outside for the summer and have been enjoying most of it, now's the time to probably start to move those back indoors.
Do you just go outside and drag them back indoors and leave them there? Or
you
is
could.
there a little bit more to it? You put them out for a part of the day and then bring them back in? How do you do it?
You can reacclimate them to the indoor conditions because most likely they'll get a lot less light. When you move them back indoors. So that can be a shock on the system.
Okay.
So while it's usually warmer inside than outside, or at least for part of the day, because if it's still going to heat up during the day outside, that's fine, and maybe just bring them in at night, start doing that, just to kind of get them reacclimated to their new conditions that they'll be in, because that's enough time. Sometimes that's enough to shock those plants. Moving them back in. We can do it either way.
Yeah.
So,
the idea of a sun porch is something I want to get into as well. But let's get a caller first. Good morning. What's your question for Bob today?
My question is that I have 4 holly bushes. The question, what I want to comment is, I believe they're 2 male and 2 female. I believe that the female get the berries on them, but I want to know if I should feed them acidic food and how often I should do that.
Okay.
And if I can trim the shrubs if I so desire to do that.
Okay. How long? They're outside planted in the ground?
Right.
Okay. And how long have they been there? How many years?
I'll say they're small yet.
Okay.
Probably I want to say the 2nd year.
Okay. All right, so they're still pretty young. They've had enough time to get established in the sites where they are, and they put on growth this year. They look good.
Yes.
Okay.
And when they're first planted, I watered them a good amount, and I've tapered off since then. But how often do I need to give them, say, a bucket of water every so often? I don't know.
Only if it really dries out. If we're not getting enough natural rainfall to cover it, then we can supplement that. But it's plants are usually better off if we kind of hold back on the water and don't overdo it. When we're establishing plants, we need to pay more attention to that. Once they get established, we're, for the most part, better off leaving them on their own. Because they will adapt and for the most part deal with that, unless we get into the extremes, of course. But, a big drought or conditions like we've had the last few years where the ground's just been saturated the whole time. They don't really like that. Those plants like a slightly acidic soil. So depending on what your soil pH is, we want to have it slightly acidic. So usually on those evergreens, we use acid-loving plant fertilizer. We don't need to fertilize them now. You can do that in the spring and get that done. And most of their nutrition they'll get from the soil, and if everything's in good shape. If there's deficiencies there, of course, we can do a soil test, determine that, and then make additions as necessary to provide those plants with the right nutritional conditions.
Now, she asked about trimming them.
And trimming, yes, and you're correct. Most of those plants have separate male and female plants. So the ones with the berries on are the females, and the ones that are not are the males. So they'll kind of look like they flower in the spring, but that's just the pollen, and then they'll release that. The females will have flowers, but usually they're pretty dainty and not very noticeable. Of course, the berries are what's really noticeable and should be on there and colorful at this point. So and they'll start out green and then they'll turn red.
So trimming?
Trimming as needed. Especially when the plants are small, as long as they're growing good, they don't have any crossing over branches or anything that's dead in them. Anything dead we prune out, anything that might be rubbing on another branch. Otherwise, we can just kind of let them grow and try to fill in the space that you've allotted for them.
If she wants to keep them at a certain size, can she trim them now? Does she have to wait till the spring?
You could, if they're already at the size that's filled up the area that they can grow, yes, you can trim them back. However, at this time of year, at least on the female plants, you will remove some of the berries that are on there. And so,
what purpose for that would that be? For what reason?
To trim them now, or
why does it need berries?
Well, usually that's
remove berries.
Yeah, well, you don't need to remove the berries. I'm just saying if you would prune them now, that's what'll. So you'd
lose some berries.
Yeah, you'll lose the berries, and that's it adds color to the plant. And some people like to let those grow, and then they'll snip them off purposely and put them inside for decoration during the holidays.
Right. And later on, the deer will get them anyway. So,
deer like to floss.
So that's another reason not to over prune, because you may have assistance in that.
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Well, can I ask one other question?
Yes.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
When is the best time? And I've discussed this with you in your office. When is the best time to trim the apple trees?
Late.
I'm tired of having a lot of apple trees, and they're not bearing apples.
Late winter.
Late winter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, usually we'll start in, if you only have a few trees, you can get it done in March. We just want to get it, primarily trying to get it done before the new growth begins in the spring.
Okay. And how about, we never spray them with anything. So should I do that? Should I spray the trees?
If you would like to get fruit, you probably will have to spray them.
Okay.
There's so many insects and diseases that just naturally affect apple trees, and with our more humid climate here, it's really difficult to have a no spray program on apple trees. So if you want quality fruit, you can do it a few times and get some okay fruit, but usually when you don't do it at all, they will rot on the tree or drop or be quite misshapen or have worms in them and won't do well.
Okay. And spray them with what, sir?
Well, I can give you a spray. I can send you a spray schedule and all that if you'd like to have that, because there's both fungicides and insecticides. There's conventional spray programs and organic spray programs, and so it can get a little bit complicated. But with a few trees, you can just get a regular fruit tree spray that has both a fungicide and a couple insecticides in it, and you can start with that and then go from there, depending on how you want to do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate
Very
your
good.
very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. It is Indiana in the morning. I only have a minute left. I wanted to ask about sun porches and ventilation of sun porches, because I would guess that even in the wintertime, when the sun comes out, it can get really hot.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have a bright, sunny day,
If you have
it can
plants
warm
out
up.
there, it could affect them.
And it could. Mm-hmm. If you have plants that are like a little more lower light conditions, yes, then too much, and also then the heat could dry the soil out quicker, as well as affect the foliage on the plants if they're not adapted and need those conditions. Because it's just like in a way, it can be like a greenhouse, and so it can get too warm, and then we can get burning on the foliage and damage.
Okay. All right. So maybe that's a topic we can explore a little bit more in the future.
In the future.
Because right now we're out of time. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.